On this week's podcast, I've got a great supporter of the show and probably one of the most frequent contributors. I think the very first time we had my guest on today, it was when the show first started, and we've been going 6 years now. So it's a great pleasure to welcome back to the show Charles Dagnall. We're going to be talking about women's cricket and all the usual stuff and nonsense we will meander off into. So without ado, let's get into it. Charlie, wonderful to have you back, and great to see you looking so fit and well.
Well, I feel all right, actually, Moot. It's nice to be back home as much as I love, and it's great to be back on the show as well. And say, I was one of the more regular contributors to the show. I'm thinking, oh, people are not sick of me yet. So stop now. That's what I say. Stop now if you're bored of it. But no, it's great to be back on the show. And as much as I love, and I'm very grateful for going away and covering the cricket that I do, it is nice to get back home, back to the sanctuary and a bit of peace and quiet until the madness starts again for this summer, which we're all looking forward to. But it's nice to have that just downtime where you can just be around your family and see my daughter and kick the dog and the missus and stuff. Not kick the missus, no. As in kick the dog and see the missus. And it's lovely to be back and great to be talking to you because even though I may have been a regular contributor, it feels like it's been a little while. Is that
I think it has been a little bit, yeah. I think it has been. You would, and I think it's the first time we've talked to you at home. I think because if you've either been covering a match and talking from the Hilton at the Utilita Bowl or whatever it is, or and I think there was one time where you were in the Caribbean in a beautiful hotel room overlooking the.
Yeah, I remember that. That was when we were doing the 19s World Cup, just after COVID.
That's right.
Yeah, and speaking to you from this resort, where just quickly, I remember just harking back that the rules were because there was still a bit of COVID around, and the ICC were absolutely sort of frantic about making sure that the 19th World Cup didn't get disrupted by anyone getting COVID, and a couple of people did, but you know, be that as it may. And our instruction was we weren't allowed to go anywhere other than this beautiful resort with this glorious golden sanded bay that was, and we're like, oh really? Okay, well, we'll have to live with that. Never mind. I mean, talk about a cushy gig. Going to watch brilliant cricket and then staying in this glorious resort. Yeah, that was a tough gig, that one, Moots. I've got to say to you, yeah. But I'm doing it. I do it so you don't have to. So there you go.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I'll buy that. So your latest episode of Daggers World has taken you out to the subcontinent, and you've been covering the Women's Premier League. Just tell us about all that.
Well, it started mid-January, sorry, where always around this time, and again, this is, you know, I adore these gigs I get, and look, are they the most high-profile gigs in the world? Absolutely not. You know, you think IPL and you think, you know, World Cups and World T20s and stuff like that, but I have done now for the last 4 years both the men's 50 over under 19 World Cup and the women's under 19 T20 World Cup. And let me tell you, it's the most gratifying cricket to cover because we live in a little bit of a bubble covering the cricket that we do. And you know, doing it, whether it be the 100 or whether it be international cricket at the highest level, and even domestic in the blast or whatever it may be. And you see these kids at the start of their journey, wanting to be pros, wanting to represent their country at the next level. And you know full well it's going to be a little while till potentially they get there. One or two break through. I think of the men's and Quaynor Packer from South Africa. He played in the 19th World Cup 2 years ago. He's now playing international cricket. Couple of years before that, Jacob Bethel and Rehan Ahmed were playing for England, and now you see them do. And when you see them at the beginning of this journey, and they are relatively naive to big stage cricket. You know, they've very rarely been interviewed before. So that's a new experience for them, or they've rarely been on television before playing. And so these added pressures. And so you see them in a little bit of a different light, out of their comfort zone of maybe playing second 11 cricket, or for the women playing Charlotte Edwards Cup or Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy. So it really is a gratifying thing, and it sort of resets you as a commentator and being in the world of cricket, that you feel it's the purest cricket you'll see outside of village cricket and amateur cricket. I'm talking about, you know, at this standard, and I adore it. I absolutely adore it, and especially when doing the women's. And the reason is, Moots, is that it's still the women's game, especially in the professional sense, is still relatively embryonic. When you think that the modern professional game has only been going sort of 8 to 10 years, you know, professional contracts, central contracts only came in 2015. So all of this is still very new in the women's game, even though the history dates back a long, long time. You know, they were the first to have a World Cup in '73, but actually as a professional entity, it is still quite new. And so what the ICC have done, and this is what I also love, is that they have expanded the under-19 T20 women's to 16 teams. So you're seeing new teams come through and represent their country. So this year we had Samoa, the United States were there again, Scotland were there, there was Indonesia, there was, in the previous one, there was Thailand. And what I think at Nigeria this year. And so you know full well in the group stages that some of the cricket you're seeing is going to be limited to you know, the standard isn't necessarily going to be that high. It doesn't matter, Moots. It really doesn't matter. That when you get to the Super Six stage, or when you get to the semi-finals, that's when it switches on to the best versus the best. But getting these kids an opportunity, spreading the game, taking it to more places, showcasing what's out there is only a good thing. And it might say that I might sound like I'm being holier than thou, but I think this is what the ICC is supposed to be for. It's to grow the game. It's to spread it in areas that don't necessarily have that cricket, and highlight what talent is out there and how they also need help to sort of generate more talent, or to let that talent flourish. So I love it. I absolutely do. And it's just joyous to see these young girls lining up, belting out their national anthems in front of TV cameras. And it's joyous. It really does fill you with a huge sense that this is the purest thing you are seeing. And it's exciting as well to see these new nations come out. And when they've got a player, you know, Moots, you go, hang on a sec. Hey, this girl can play. She's proper. And how can we develop that? So I love that competition. India won it. And also, what is good about those competitions, we got to do that in Malaysia. Now, this is a place where, you know, ICC main events will not go to usually. But what a perfect opportunity to spread the game, taking it to a new place. And so I got to go to Malaysia. We went to a place, Johor, which is at the south of the country. We went to Borneo Cricket Club, Sarawak, where it just rained. But I can tell you that hosting the under-19 T20 World Cup in Malaysia in monsoon season maybe could be looked at. Just throwing that out there. And then we ended up in Kuala Lumpur, and just brilliant. I really can't tell you how much of a lift it gives you, because sometimes we can get a little bit cynical in the world of cricket, and you know, be a bit cockeyed to one or two things, and you know, but this is different. It really is different. And so hugely grateful to have gone there. See India won it. England did okay. There's one or two players that are coming through. Davina Perrin. A lot of people will remember that name potentially as one of the graduates of the Ace Cricket Academy.
Absolutely.
Brent's, you know, charity, and I say charity, but it's development of those from African and Caribbean descent, which obviously you know very, very well about the ACE program. And Davina was the England star, I have to say. She really did perform well. But India, they could pick 5 teams at that side, and they sort of canted it. But that was great. That was a great tournament. And then I'm realizing that I've probably spoken for 10 minutes on length without you getting a word in. And then I went to the WPL.
But I think you're right. Just before we get onto the WPL, what we're seeing now, and you mentioned, Dev, there's Jemima Rodriguez. There are superstars now coming through. There are real players of the real deal in the women's game.
Yeah.
And I think the story of cricket as a whole, you look at the whole thing as a sport, over the last 5 years, it's the irresistible march of the women's game. And we've seen that here, we've seen that with the 100, where it's almost been a bigger success story for the women's game than the men. We've now got professional women's county cricket going on over here, just down the road from me, Chelmsford, Essex, are one of those that have been given the status of having a women's team. And just generally, there's a march, isn't there, of cricket, and as you say, England, that they've taken a lot of stick this year. I mean, it hasn't been a glorious start for England, but you know they are at cricket's top table amongst the women nations.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we kind of, I mean, I remember covering my first game back in 2012. My God. And this was at Taunton. It was for the radio for TMS. And it was England, India. And, you know, there weren't that many people there. And we were the only broadcast. And Charlotte Edwards, as captain, sort of like almost looked at me, did a double take and went, "What are you doing here?" Kind of thing. You know, no one ever comes to follow us. And I watched that game and I thought, "Do you know what?" And I said to Lottie at the time, I said, "Look, I'm going to call this as I see it. I've never covered women's cricket before. I'm going to call it if I say it. If something's good, I'll say it's good. If something's bad, I'll say it's bad." And she went, "Yeah, good. Please do." Kind of thing. That's what we're looking for. And I looked at that, and you can't compare what the standard was like back then to what it is right now. You can't do it. But I went away from there going, they need help because they're proper players, but they can't train day in, day out because they've got to have jobs, they've got to earn a living, they can't dedicate the time and stuff like that. Now what we are seeing is when you invest in that, it's no surprise that yes, you needed a lot of money to invest in it, but you give players an opportunity to dedicate themselves to their craft, and you're going to get results. And that is what has happened in the women's game. And subsequently, what you've gotten, where the 100 has done it better than, well, I'll say this, the BBL did it first in that they aligned the two sides, so the Adelaide Strikers men and the Adelaide Strikers women. And what they then did, which I don't think necessarily helped the women's game in Australia, they separated the competitions. So the standalone WBBL and then standalone BBL. I actually think they're talking about maybe going back to double headers, having seen how well it's worked in the UK with the 100 and what's happened with the crowd figures. So first year, and I'm speaking generally here, you know, Beth Barrett-Wild would be able to tell you the real figures, but generally speaking, when it was the 100 first year, the people would start basically coming in maybe sort of towards the end of the women's game.
Yeah, that's right.
Ahead of the men's game. And then the following year, they'd come in at half time and they'd watch the second half of the women's game. And then the following year, they're coming in for the start. So then you're growing this fan base. You are growing the women's game subsequently. People going, "I'm really enjoying this." And we're actually on board. We're an Oval Invincibles fan, or we're a Southern Brave fan, and we want to go down the sport. And it has built brilliantly on that. A happy accident, I have to say, because after COVID, they were going to separate the women's and the men's competition to different venues and stuff. But as it turns out, because of COVID, they did it this way. And look at the figures. The figures are incredible. So the women's game, I don't think we've even close to tapped what the potential is for the women's game over the next decade, maybe even 2 decades, when it's a far more ingrained thing. But I have no doubts the WPL will expand at some point. I think it should expand by a team next year. And I'll give you my overthoughts in a minute of the WPL as a whole. But I think we've seen it go one way, and it will continue to rise. What you're finding now is that the women's game can attract different sponsors outside of where the men's game they can stand on their own 2 feet. And so, but with that moods, it comes bigger money, bigger contracts. England have found out recently in the Women's Ashes series that now you're on these bigger contracts, you don't perform, and the criticisms are going to come your way. And they have come thick and fast. And you look at the difference between what Australia produced and what England are producing, and it's night and day. And lots of different elements to that have come out. It wasn't a great series at all, on the field, off the field. The sort of the culture within England's women's team was questioned, the fitness, the athleticism, all of these different things. Now that comes with it. So that's, again, another aspect of it being in its embryonic stage, is that everything, the marketing behind the women's game and all of that has been very positive. The women have been wonderful ambassadors for the game. They really have. But now people expect results. You've got the fans' support. You've got the people behind you. Now you've got to perform, to the standards that people expect and the expectations levels. And when you don't do that, like the men's team, the culture's been called into question for the men's team as well. You've got to perform at the level that people expect. So it's going to be, for the women, it's going to be high peaks and low troughs until it all starts to level out a little bit, and that expectation is met by both players and supporters alike.
I'm keen to explore the WPL. Now, we all know about India as a nation of 1.8 billion or whatever it is, being absolutely cricket crazy. And when the IPL, we've seen the IPL for years, the absolute almost craziness of the atmosphere of games, everything about it, from, the feast on the eyes, the quality of the cricket, the big names, the noise, the excitement, all the rest of it. How did the WPL? I mean, again, I'm assuming it's embryonic, but what are your thoughts on that compared to? I'm not saying on a par with the men's IPL, but whereabouts is the women's IPL?
I keep getting blown away by the WPL, and ages and again. Do you remember when it was the Kia Super League, Moots?
Yeah.
The women were playing the Kia Super League. This before the 100, before COVID, and I think I was on doing the games and sort of saying, why aren't India doing something? Why isn't there a women's IPL? Why are they not? Why are they sitting on their hands, kind of thing? Because the WBBL existed, the Kia Super League existed for the women, and then obviously the 100 was in the process of coming to fruition. What I didn't realize, this is why I've never been in business, Moots. I wouldn't be a very good business person. In that when they did it, they needed to do it properly. And so it would align with the level of the IPL from a marketing and brand standpoint. I didn't get that. I didn't understand that and why they have to do that and how things work in India. Now, it isn't necessarily why are RCB the biggest name in the IPL? It's because of Virat. And I didn't realize that people out there, people in the subcontinent, don't necessarily support teams. They support players. It's a kind of idolization of their favorite player, whether it's Hardik Pandya or Rohit Sharma or Ravi Jadeja or Virat Kohli or whoever. And so if Virat Kohli moved to I don't know, Kolkata Knight Riders, they'd have the biggest fan base, kind of thing, because that's sort of and again, I'm sure there would be arguments for and against that, but that is how it works in India. And who told me this? Anjum Chopra, who was former Indian captain. She was on commentary with us at the WPL. And so I go out there, and when we commentate, we are given the same treatment, and I'm talking on air, as the IPL. It gets the same. 32 cameras, every single slow-mo, split screen, you name it, spin vision, all the technology. We want for nothing as broadcasters. It's as though it's the same as the IPL gets. Everything is the same as the IPL gets. Okay. Now, it started in Mumbai. I didn't do the first year. Last year, and they've done it slowly and surely. So in the first year, they just did it all in and around Mumbai, at the DY Patil Stadium in New Mumbai and the Brabant Stadium in Mumbai itself. The second year, they did 2 weeks in Bengaluru and then 2 weeks in Delhi. And Bengaluru was crazy. I've never seen anything like it, right? The Chinnaswamy is full to bursting with RCB supporters, but not just with RCB supporters wearing Virat 18 shirts. They're wearing Smriti Mandana 18 shirts. And I'm like, bloody hell, is this a culture shift now? Is that? And their idol is Smriti. And I got it then. The penny dropped. And they want to see Smriti. But who's the other big idol that comes over and plays? It's Elise Perry. Elise Perry is a massive star. They adore her. And she plays at RCB as well. And so that's why they're packing them in at the Chinnaswamy. Then we spent 2 weeks in Delhi. This is last year. 2 weeks at Bangalore, 2 weeks Delhi. This year, they expanded it even further. So Gujarat Giants, who are one of the teams, we had a week of games in Gujarat. Then we went to the Chinnaswamy again. Then we went to Lucknow for the UP Warriors. So everyone has had a little bit of taste. So they're expanding it slowly and surely, bringing in new audiences around India. We were in Vadodara, which is a couple of hours south of Ahmedabad. Brand new spanking stadium, 35, 40,000 stadium. And we're getting about 20,000 in for the Gujarat Giants. Well, I'm like, this is brilliant. This is, really, really good. It's not necessarily a hotbed of cricket like Bangalore is, but still getting a hell of a lot of people through the gates. So I thought this year, it was a shame to me that the overseas players, it's a very delicate balance, I think, for the WPL. As a tournament, it was great. Mumbai Indians win it. Their stars perform. Hayley Matthews, Nat Siva-Brunt, Amelia Kerr, Shabnam Ismail and Harmanpreet Kaur. They're your 5 stars for the Mumbai Indians. Okay, Indian captain and 4 great overseas players. My little worry is actually for India itself, because they have about 5 or 6 18 to 21-year-old good quality seam bowlers. Now, it never used to be like that for India. They had Jalan Goswami and that was it, kind of thing. And now they've got a lot of talent coming through. But the Mumbai Indians, and this is maybe unfair to use them as an example, but they did win it. 16 of the 20 overs bowled are from overseas players. Now, how is that developing Indian talent? The top 5 is Hayley Matthews, Yastika Bhatia, Nat Siva-Brunt, Amelia Kerr, and Harmanpreet Kaur. That's your top 5 who are scoring and batting the majority of the overs. Where's the young Indian talent that's going to get the opportunity? So I think, is 4 overseas players a lot? Seems to me like it is.
Yeah.
Got to be honest. But maybe they wanted the quality first, and then maybe develop that, add another team perhaps. Maybe then when the depth of quality of Indian player is there, reduce it by an overseas player. I don't know. But that's what I came away thinking. I came away feeling a bit for India, which not many people
Blimey.
But from a women's cricket standpoint, and I take away the men's, from a women's cricket standpoint, I want to see the talent come through. I want to see young players get the opportunity and that depth spread a little bit more. There's a bowler called Tita Sadhu. She was in the Under-19 T20 World Cup 2 years ago. And she's represented India. She's one of India's opening bowlers. She played 2 games for Delhi. 2 games. And I'm like, well, how's that good for her? She's got to be playing at the top level, bowling to Nat Siva-Brunt, bowling to Elise Perry, bowling to Ash Gardner, and play people like that. So that was sort of like the takeaway I had. Brilliant, absolutely sensational competition. Great to see another team. So every one of the five teams has had an opportunity to get through to the knockout stage or straight through to the final. Delhi Capitals and Mumbai Indians have done it every year so far. In the first year, it was UP Warriors. Second year, the RCB, and they went on to win it. And then Gujarat Giants. So everyone's had a little taste of a bit of success, which is good and encouraging. I'd like to see more Indian talent come through. But overall, great value. You go to the Chinnaswamy Moots and do an interview with Smriti Mandana at the toss, and you have to wait. You have to wait because the noise, she can't hear me, I can't hear her. And I've got earpieces in and everything, microphoned up. I cannot hear a thing. So I have to wait for it to die down before we speak. But it's brilliant. And who'd have thought that about the women's game 10 years ago?
It's absolutely unbelievable. And I think the trajectory is still just going skywards. It really is.
It is.
Okay, so you're back on home soil.
Yes.
The sun is out. You can smell the cut grass up and down the country.
Yeah.
What are you excited for from the English summer, whether it's men's or women's?
Lots. I mean, really is. This is a really big summer, I think.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to. Well, I'll start with the women's side, and then because that's where we've just been. After the Women's Ashes, there has been a review, a very in-depth review of what's going on with the women's team by the ECB. Don't know who's involved in the review. One gets the feeling it could be a little bit marking your own homework about it. That's the way it feels to me. We don't know if there are independent people coming in to help review what's gone on. I'll be intrigued to see what the results of the review are. I worry that nothing will change. That's my worry. They'll all talk about change, but will it actually change? And I'm not necessarily saying you've got to get rid of the coach or get rid of the captain. I would never advocate for doing that because I don't think it's my place as a commentator to say someone should be out of a job. I don't believe that. But being under pressure, I think a coach can be under pressure. I think John Lewis is. He's going to have to get results sooner or later. I think England have a very easy start with the West Indies. Bar Hayley Matthews and Deandra Dotton and Chanel Henry, there's not a great deal. They should go out and hammer them. The series for me is the India series for both the men's and the women. And I think, if I'm being honest, the men's series is tasty. I mean, it really is properly tasty. England men have had a lot of grief over their culture recently, and especially in the recent Champions Trophy. That's more white ball cricket. But the red ball side has got it as well. People are saying about the whole Bazball thing, and, you look at the record and it's 17 and 16, and now people are starting to question that a little bit. So I think there's a bit of pressure on the men's team. And India coming over as Champions Trophy winners, as World T20 winners, and now, coming over to sort of try and assert their dominance over India in the red ball game, over England, sorry. I hope all the stars are available. I hope Bumrah's here. I hope that India are able to put out the strongest possible side against England. And I think that is a mouth-watering test series, personally. I think the 100 is going to be a far higher quality in the men's competition. The women's is always high quality. I have to say it is. All the best players in the world come over and play, and they are coming again. So I've no worries on that front. On the men's, though, I think it's exciting to say. I love him. I hate him. David Warner's coming over. Kane Williamson's going to be here. You've got Bolt. Birmingham Phoenix have got a bowling attack of Adam Milne, Tim Southey, and Trent Bolt. I mean, I want to go watch that. That's exciting. So I think there's a lot to look forward to on the 100 side. I always think that the Vitality Blast is one of the best T20 competitions in the world. I do. I think there's such a high quality. I always look forward to that. And also with the women's competition aligning with that now, I'll be intrigued to see how that all pans out with the county scene, and I hope that the counties are giving them the backing, resources as they should get. But I think, to be honest, there's so much to look forward to. I think over the course of this summer, I'm sure I'm missing lots of things out, but I always get to this stage, and the county championship is the thing. I'll be glued to some of the streams on the county championship for the first couple of weeks because that is the quintessential start to our English summer. It's the thing,
Oh yeah.
that kicks the cricket season off, the county championship. It is still the trophy that, as well as big as finals day is, and as big as the 100 is, and all of that, the changing face of the 100, that will come to next year with all of the ownership and the changes in ownership and that sort of thing. But you know what? The county season always gives me great pleasure. Reading the scorecards at the end of the day on the apps and on Cricinfo, or it used to be CFAX, didn't it, mate? 3-4-1 you'd start. I am actually sat here, not frothing at the mouth for the start of the season. I am really just inwardly, to my very core, looking forward to this season much more than I have in previous seasons.
Well, we all look forward to seeing the return of the yellow tinted aviators, which is surely the sign that summer is here. And seeing you on the TV, listening to you on the radio, and maybe at some point, can we see the bass guitar make a return and clonking Butch over the head with it?
Well, that I would do as a matter of course. I'll be only too happy, and just to sort of say, that's from Moots. I'll be more than happy to do so. But it's getting Butch in the same room with me to play the guitar. I know he'd be hugely embarrassed, and I would be thrilled, and he would be embarrassed. But yeah, the bass is being played a lot more these days. So watch this space.
Fantastic, Charlie. Brilliant to catch up, and I'm sure we'll bump into each other over the summer, whether it's on the
We
pitch,
will.
off the pitch, whatever. And I look forward to seeing you. Thanks a lot for your time.
No worries,
Always
mate.
a
Always a
brilliant
pleasure.
show.